Right in the middle of the Atlantic, where the equator meets the prime meridian, sits a controversial, non-existent, and oddly famous place. People call it Null Island. It's not an island. It's not a secret base. It's a dumpster for bad data. Yet somehow, it's one of the most visited places on our maps. What is Null Island? Null Island refers to the coordinate point 0 degrees latitude and 0 degrees longitude, the crossing of the equator and the prime meridian. On a globe, that point sits in the Gulf of Guinea, hundreds of kilometers from any shore. In mapping data, though, Null Island is a destination, a single point where errors and missing values often collect. The origin of Null Island is partly technical and partly cultural. In many databases, missing or null values can be coerced into numeric 0. When that happens, those empty or malformed records collapse onto the single coordinate 0, 0. Cartographers and GIS engineers began to notice the effect and, with a bit of humor, started calling that point Null Island. Over time, mapping datasets like Natural Earth added a marker for the location, turning an inside joke into a fixture in geospatial databases. Despite the fiction, there is one tangible thing near 0.0, a moored observation buoy that's part of the Parada Array, an international ocean atmosphere monitoring system. The buoy collects weather and sea data and occasionally winds up referenced in reports about Null Island. But the ocean there is deep, and the buoy is the only regular physical presence. Data ends up at 0, 0 for a few reasons. First, software sometimes converts missing values to 0. Second, geocoding services that can't resolve an address may fall back to 0, 0. Third, users or systems that anonymize locations sometimes zero them out intentionally. The result is not mystery but mess. Datasets filled with points that mean nothing but still show up on maps and visualizations. Investigators and journalists have noticed clusters of activity at Null Island in a range of systems. Fitness trackers have had anonymized runner routes mapped there. Research buoys and ships have their data points plotted. The joke turned practical. Analysts began searching for concentrations at 0.0 as a quick diagnostic for corrupted data. Map communities embrace the idea. People draw flags, write mock histories, and publish satirical pages about the Republic of Null Island. For cartographers, it's a cautionary tale and a quirky cultural meme, a way to teach the hazards of sloppy geodata. Null Island is funnier, but it's also useful. It highlights how much of our world is mediated by software and how easily those systems can mislead. For scientists, businesses, and governments that rely on geospatial data, Null Island is a reminder to validate inputs and watch for the obvious signs of failure. If you work with mapping data, run a quick script that flags any mass of points at 0, 0. Validate coordinate inputs. Use sentinel values for missing data instead of zeros. And when you see a pin floating over the ocean, ask whether it's a real place or just someone's typo. Null Island is an empty point with a personality, a small salty symbol of the messy human-made systems behind our maps. Will you visit? Only if you like buoys and bad data. Follow @the Map Mysteries for more map oddities.